Fayetteville State University's Center for Defense and Homeland Security focuses on cybersecurity, critical infrastructure protection, and disaster management preparedness. For more on the center's work and mission, we recently spoke with Director Curtis Charles. Dr. Curtis Charles, welcome to North Carolina Now.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You are the Senior Associate Vice Chancellor and Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Fayetteville State University.
Yes.
In your role, you are also Executive Director of Fayetteville State University's Center for Defense and Homeland Security. Before we talk specifically about that center, tell us about your background and how you approach the work that you do at Fayetteville State.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about the center. I mean, I think, my diverse background prepares me well for leadership of the center and realizing not only the UNC strategic priority, but also Chancellor Anderson's vision for the center. I'm a graduate of Morgan State University, Howard University, and MIT. And most folks who are aware of MIT know that MIT is very entrepreneurial. We try to train leaders instead of train followers. I came out of MIT in 1989, and the height of the last recession. There was no work, so I needed to start a company, and I started writing. So my first two books were 2 years after I graduated. I formed a company in Miami, lasted for 10 years, and then I went on to IBM Global Services, an executive consultant for strategic change. And that brought me back to the academy. I was always teaching part-time, but I came to the academy. So I come to the academy very much looking as an entrepreneur. I spent 5 years in academic affairs with every conceivable responsibility from academic program to specialized accreditation. And Chancellor tapped me about 2 years ago to lead this effort. I enjoy the Center for Defense and Homeland Security because I think it's a patriotic effort. When we look at the statistics, that by the end of this year, 30,000 scientists and engineers are going to be separating from the DoD because of retiring baby boomers. And by 2020, that number jumps to 60,000. I think because of our proximity to Fort Bragg and the other bases, it was imperative that Fayetteville State University take that leadership role.
And what is the mission for the Center for Defense and Homeland Security?
The mission of the Center for Defense and Homeland Security is to serve as a catalyst to prepare the next generation national security professionals and STEM professionals as well. And when we talk about STEM, we also include social sciences. But it is important that when we look at the retiring age of folks and professionals in national security, that the country understand that we cannot outsource national security. So it's something that we have to grow. We also look at the fact that most minority students has not been in this field, and I think it is important that an HBCU like Fayetteville State University take that lead. It's also beneficial to us that we have two really great leaders who have spent their life at Research One. Dr. Conway spent 32 years at NC State, who is our Chief of Staff and Vice Chancellor, and Chancellor Anderson was there for 11 years. He was also at Texas A&M. So they understand what it is to be entrepreneurial. They understand how to develop centers, and they understand how to solve and address both the nation as well as state needs. And that's what the center is doing. When we look at the focus of the center has 22 interdisciplinary faculty. And that's purposeful. The reason why we have 22 interdisciplinary faculty is that we want to make sure that any of the wicked problems that the nation faces, in this case national security, it has to be addressed by a multiplicity of disciplines. So we have sciences, we have biology, chemistry, education, emergency manager serves on the board. We have several retired military that serves on the CDHS as well as scholars. So it gives us an opportunity to really dive deep into some areas that a silo wouldn't allow us to.
Sounds like you're doing some interesting work. The University of North Carolina as a whole has recently come out with a new 5-year strategic plan.
Yes.
In that strategic plan is a priority to continue to build upon the relationships that the university already has with the military, and to build bigger and new partnerships with defense and military. So how does the center fit into that overarching strategic goal for the entire university system?
Yes, well, great question. As the strategic plan developed, we were quite pleased to see that the UNC system placed an emphasis on defense security. It is paramount to the nation, but more importantly, it helps us. I mean, we have for the past 2.5 years built relationships with MIT Lincoln Lab, which is a national lab that only does research and development for Department of Defense. The executive director and assistant director serves on our CDHS board. We have built relationships over the last 2 years with Lockheed Martin, with the Department of Defense, with Oak Ridge Associated University, Oak Ridge National Lab. So all these entities have been involved in national security and have been involved in defense. So it gives us the legitimacy when we go out to talk to federal agencies that we not only have the Center for Defense and Homeland Security that focuses on national security, but it is embedded, it's grounded in the strategic priorities of the UNC system, and that is priceless.
What opportunities does the center give to students at Fayetteville State University?
Great question. Because of the relationships that we have developed with industry, one of my primary goals is to make sure that we do two things, that we provide research opportunities for our faculty. It is important that our faculty work with industry. This summer, for example, we have 2 faculty, one doing research in cybersecurity and one doing research in GIS at Oak Ridge National Lab. Last summer, we had 1 faculty at Oak Ridge, another one at MIT Lab. But most importantly, last year was the first year we started the internship programs with the national labs. And we had 6 students, 4 at MIT Lincoln Lab and 2 at Oak Ridge National Lab. And I'm pleased to say that many of those students have gone on to grad school. I know one is going on to Harvard, who was probably the best student at MIT Lincoln Lab. So we continued to develop these internship programs, not only with the national labs, but also with industry as well. The folks that sit on our board, Lockheed Martin, Department of Defense, we are constantly trying to open those opportunities for both our students and our faculty. So a key strategic priority of the center is to make sure that we have real-world experiences for our students. But more importantly, when I talk about students, I'm not only talking about undergraduate students, I'm also talking about either the separating soldiers or the active duty soldiers that we serve as well.
Finally, if our viewers want to find out more about the Center for Defense and Homeland Security, what do they need to do?
They could go directly to the university website at uncfsu.com/CDHS.
Dr. Curtis Charles, thank you so much for sharing all the fascinating work you're doing.
Thank you so much.